Hey, how's it going everyone? I am here with some Bethesda and Starfield news, but don't worry, no leaks or rumors or anything of that variety today, I promise. Now, I've been looking deep into Bethesda, their patterns, their past games, interviews, how many times Todd Howard ate a Twinkie, everything that I can find, even going as far back as the 1990s. All in the hopes of trying to find any solid or subjective evidence that can actually prove that Starfield even exists. After all, Bethesda has denounced the game's existence in the past, but we always have to remember that they've done this with other games before, such as Fallout 4. However, after all my research, I think that I finally discovered what the best piece of evidence is that backs up Starfield, and that is Bethesda themselves. Now let me explain, but prepare yourselves, my friends, for our journey will take us deep into the 1990s.
You're not going anywhere without your big game Liquid Slam.
Excellent!
Now, one thing about Bethesda that slips under most people's radar is that they are very good at predicting trends even before the gaming industry itself shows signs of these trends taking place. Bethesda is also very good at keeping tabs on their competition, despite how friendly they are in the open when dealing with other developers. The point I am trying to make here is that Bethesda Game Studios has always had their fingers on the pulse of the gaming industry, and they make moves and decisions that often take years to fully reach fruition. And if they fail at something that they really want to create, they try it time and time again, and they take all the time that they need to fulfill the vision for the game that they have. Bethesda doesn't go down easy or give up on a project too quickly. With this in mind, let's look at everything that I gathered that, in my opinion, screams loud and clear that we should expect Starfield or something like Starfield from Bethesda very, very soon. Now let's start with the 10th Planet. I talked about this game in previous videos. It is Bethesda's first attempt at a space RPG, and it is the only visual demonstration of what Bethesda would have in mind when it comes to the visuals and the overall tone of a space RPG game. Bethesda's first attempt at this 1990s version of Starfield was cancelled pretty quickly. The only footage of their first attempt at a space game is this gameplay here, recorded in 1995. I talk about this footage in more detail in this video here, link is also in the description below. I've also recently found new visuals of this 10th Planet game, including these screenshots and a very short clip of what looks like another cutscene. Now for the time, it actually looked pretty decent, and the screenshots look much better than the pre-alpha gameplay video from earlier. Bethesda clearly had a grand vision in mind with this game, perhaps too grand, as a former developer gave us more insight into why this game was cancelled. Pretty much what he says here is he remembers the game trailer, and he remembers that the vision was way too much for the art team. It would have taken a lot of people and a lot of time to even make the vision of this game a reality. In fact, Bethesda spent too much money and time on just the trailer themselves. Bethesda actually wanted this game to become a reality so bad that they tried it again a few years later in 1997, and here is a leaked conversation between Todd Howard and Andy Kronkamp, a longtime friend of Todd Howard who happens to work as a software engineer at Intel. They were speaking together of some of their favorite games, and Todd Howard himself said a space RPG really interested him. Maybe this conversation is what drove Bethesda to give the 10th Planet another go. Their second attempt at the 10th Planet is likely this footage featured here that I have covered in a previous video before. I broke this footage down in this video, and there is a link to it in the description below. Despite how bad Todd Howard wanted his vision of a space RPG to come to life, this game ended up getting cancelled again. One reason was back then Bethesda Game Studios was split up into multiple development teams at the time, each working on different projects, which totally went against Bethesda's vision and the way that they developed games. In fact, if Todd Howard didn't rally all of the different studios together under one to make Morrowind, Bethesda Game Studios could have went out of business. The second and more important reason this game was cancelled is a quote directly from another former Bethesda developer. They pretty much say the same thing. Not only was the vision of the game way too unrealistic at the time for the art team, but they also wanted the game to be developed in such a short and unrealistic period of time. In fact, they were surprised that they tried to bring this game back and make it all over again. It should have seemed totally unrealistic. Which to me seems like Todd Howard's epic vision of a grand space RPG was a bit too grand and likely way before its time. But with how far gaming technology has come since then, and with how far Bethesda themselves have also come as well, I'd say now is the best time time more than ever for Todd Howard to make a third attempt at his long-running ambition of creating a space RPG. And also, since gaming has evolved so much since the 10th Planet, Todd is naturally leaving that name and franchise behind and starting anew with Starfield. It is also very likely that Todd Howard already knew this a long time ago and that Starfield has been in pre-development for many years. After all, Todd Howard recently said this. He said that Bethesda Game Studios has 3 projects in development, many of which are different than what they've done before, but they will all be big and large-scale epic Bethesda-style games. It is my hypothesis that Starfield is one of these games, and seeing how in 2017 Pete Hines stated that they were playtesting a game that was in the late stages of development, and in 2018 Todd Howard said that they had a game that was finishing up the development cycle, I'd say chances are very, very high that we are getting a new Bethesda Game Studios game this year. And because Bethesda has tried to make a space RPG game work time and time again, more than any of their previous failed projects, it is very likely that Starfield will be this game, or at least one of these 3 games. And what about all these leaks? They could all be fake. In fact, I think most of them actually are. But since Bethesda has always been very good at predicting future gaming trends, and since it's likely that if Starfield exists, that it would have been in pre-production for a long time, it is interesting to wonder if perhaps Bethesda posted some of these leaks themselves to not only gauge the community's response to Starfield, but at the same time draw some hype and attention away from Star Citizen, which would most likely be Bethesda's biggest competition, which would be genius if true. And remember, Fallout 4 had tons of leaks like this, most of which were totally fucking fake, but not all of them, which leaves the possibility that some of these leaks are not only true, but could directly be from Bethesda themselves. So that brings us back to my point that I'm trying to make with this video. Based on Bethesda's previous attempts at space RPGs, since the 10th Planet was way before its time, and since Todd Howard has shown a strong interest in creating a space RPG, I'd say the best real evidence that there is to find that supports the Starfield rumor is true is Bethesda themselves, especially with the recent trend of games like this in the gaming industry lately. Now let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. What do you think the chances are that we could see Starfield this year? Remember, the quicker we get Starfield, or whatever Bethesda's next game is, the quicker we can get the Elder Scrolls 6. And if you like my content, I'd love it if you give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to me on Patreon. That way you could have your hand in personally building the channel and creating future content. Make sure to subscribe to me on here as well and turn notifications on so you can be the first to hear new gaming news, and please follow me on that Twitter as well so we can talk about new information and share stuff together. And as always, thank you for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when Todd Howard does both stuff and things.
Bye, have a great time.